we have an audience. Like, we're going with a well-curated and built community that's going to celebrate this moment that they've been a part of since its proof of concept, all the way through to it being on the screen.
This is the Box Office Podcast. I'm Daniel Loria from Box Office Pro, the pulse of theatrical exhibition. And in this week's episode, we are talking to Angel Studios' Brandon Purdy, their head of distribution, who will be going over the entire slate for the rest of this year and next year on the Angel Studio side. If you weren't there at ShowEast in Miami, Florida this week, don't fret. Brandon is going to be here in the second half of the episode to go over Angel's distribution plans for movies coming to a theater near you. But before that, we're going to get started with our news and forecasting segments with our colleagues, as usual, Rebecca Pahle and Chad Kennerk here from Box Office Pro. Guys, another week, another horror movie that did decently well on the marketplace. Did anybody catch Smile 2 this weekend?
I unfortunately did not. I am coming off the end of a baseball hangover. So, yeah, I definitely wanted to work my way around the Mets playoff schedule, but everything that was not at 10:30 at night at a certain point was sold out, and I'm not doing a 10:30. I'm not in my 20s.
The older we get, the post 10 p.m. screenings, the tougher they are. Chad,
even
on your
like
end?
9:30 is too much.
Too much.
Yeah.
Did you get to catch anything on your end, Chad? I know you've got some press screenings lined up this week.
Yeah, I've got some things lined up. Man, Smile 2, I feel like back in the day would have been one of those midnight screenings that I was at, those midnight openings.
Back when there were midnight openings and not Thursday at 8 p.m. openings.
Exactly. Yeah. Kids don't know what they're missing these days. I have Anora that I'm seeing tonight. I'm really looking forward to that from Neon. And then I'm also seeing the Silent Sync Nosferatu.
I caught a press screening I caught a couple last week, caught up with Conclave that is being released this weekend by Focus Features, and then the exceptional Nickel Boys that is scheduled to come out during the holiday period in December, if I'm not mistaken. Fantastic movie, Nickel Boys. Really, really special film. I can't wait for folks to take a look at that one. And of course, we are coming off of this streak of horror movies. We had that terrific overperformance from Terrifier 3 a couple of weeks back. And then a little bit of an overperformer because I think our tracking was up and down on Smile 2. By the end of our tracking period, we were expecting somewhere between 15 and 20, a little bit below the original. But lo and behold, the opening weekend ended up being on par with that original Smile title, $23 million, a nice solid performance to build off in this month of October.
I definitely think it's a good move from Paramount initially to release it in theaters and not just sent it over to screening. It's the same writer-director. It's still Parker Finn involved. It feels like, it hasn't been super long since the first one, but it doesn't necessarily feel like, Daniel, was it Scream 5? It was immediately rushed into production, the sequel, because the first one did so well. It was 5, 6.
So the five did so well. 6 went into fast track. You've seen that sort of like quick turnaround. What can happen there? What happens when you give it a little bit of time to seep in and make sure you've got the right schedule and story together for the next one? So a good performance all in all here for Smile 2. Now this weekend we've got Venom: The Last Dance. Did I get the subtitle correctly? Is that right?
You did.
Just call it 3. For the love of God, put numbers in these movies
That's not
again.
a summer erasure. Normally, I would agree with you 100%, but not when it comes at the expense of Donna Summer. I just hope that they use that song.
They actually use it in the film, yeah.
That'd be ideal, but who knows? Listen, there's been 3 of these movies. Quick update on the tracking where we're at, and of course, our final tracking numbers are available over at boxofficepro.com every Wednesday. So by the time you listen to this episode, our forecast will be up online. We taped this earlier in the week. We're currently looking between $60 to $80 million opening weekend wise. So a softer debut than the last 2 entries in this series. I'm not sure this gets to that $200 million plus benchmark, as of course the last 2 movies and the last 2 movies of the Venom series ended up making the same exact amount of money at the box office. What was it? 213 million each.
213.5, I think. Yeah,
Something
they're
like
like
that,
30,000 apart. It's a ridiculous coincidence, especially when you consider that the second Venom, Let There Be Carnage, was a COVID era release. I caught that at a drive-in.
The Warwick drive-in, isn't that right?
Yep, I had a good time with it, even if I was panicking about parking and getting.
They've got an apple orchard like across the street from that drive-in.
Oh, Pennings. Oh man,
yeah,
that's
they've
great,
got good
great.
cider there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know far too well about the cider, though not in conjunction with the drive-in, because I'm
No, it's not
responsible.
about the rules here. Are you kidding me?
So
we've got a Venom movie.
We got a pre-COVID, a COVID, and a post-COVID trilogy here. I hope it sticks the landing. Daniel, I know you're not. I feel like you're not super fond of the series.
I wouldn't say that I'm not a fan. It's just I've seen two of them, and I can't remember a single second of either film. I could see both of them for the first time and just be surprised by them. Chad, do you remember? We gave you a quiz earlier in the podcast a couple weeks ago. You couldn't name a single character in this thing. Can you now? You've had 2 weeks to think about it.
I did not do my homework. No.
Nothing. We still can't remember a second of this entire... It's going to be a trilogy, guys.
Tom Hardy, and
Carnage,
there's Alien Symbiote
Venom,
Tom Hardy. That's what else do you need here?
Yeah. Venom's in Vegas, our annual stomping grounds this time. So
that's where it's at. Okay.
I like it. I wouldn't say that I love the first two films, but they're fun and they're stupid and they feel not obsessively focus tested in a way that it feels a little freer. Like it feels a little bit pre-MCU Blade era. Like it just, it does come from a kind of it's Tom Hardy's passion project trilogy. He wanted to do a silly voice, as he always does. He's good at it. There's an earnest sweetness to it that I respond to.
Oh,
and also it's stupid. It's stupid in a good way.
Listen, I think it knows what it is. It doesn't try to be any more than that. I am pleasantly surprised that there is $60 to $80 million worth of opening weekend of people asking themselves, I wonder what Venom is up to right now. I would love to spend 2 more hours with the Venom guys.
I think a good reason that the second one made as much as the first one, even though it came out, obviously in a period where their theatrical landscape was much different. There just wasn't a ton to see, obviously, during COVID. So you have a lot of people like myself. I went to see Venom 2 at the drive-in because it is what was playing at the drive-in when I was there. This one, I also kind of feel like we have more movies hitting the theatrical, slate through the end of 2024. Thank God. It's not like we could really have fewer than we've had in the past few years. But I'm excited to see Gladiator 2 and I'm excited to see Wicked. But I need a little, just light, dumb, kind of action adjacent sci-fi movie. I feel like I've seen Craven already with how long that marketing has been kind of winging its way through the internet. So I feel a gap in the marketplace. Hopefully, it's going to outperform Joker 2. Apologies to our friends at Warner Brothers.
We're light on superhero movies this year. So there's an audience that's maybe wanting to get back to that.
And there's nothing wrong with chicken wings. Sometimes you're just in the mood for chicken wings, and there's nothing wrong with that. With a nice cold beer, and you just sit down and you just eat the chicken wings. You have a great afternoon. I've gone through that experience many times. The nicer meals, there's a time and place for that. That's coming during the holidays, award season. Right now, close to Halloween, it's chicken wing season, and that's what we're getting.
It feels like disco. It's like, it's fun.
Yeah, fun.
It's fun.
Why not? I'm glad that there's an audience for it. Again, we've been just clamoring for movies that are relevant to moviegoers in every month of the year. And we have that with this title because it's been, after Joker 2 fell hard, we can't really call Terrifier 3 a wide appeal film.
No.
God bless it.
I just think it speaks to, the post golden era of the MCU. There's not so much a monoculture anymore. And we say, we want movies in theaters for fit a variety of demographics, of opinions, of tastes. Venom is for the common man. Venom is for the people.
That's fine.
Or Terrifier 3. I feel like I'm always pleased to see something come out of left field and do super better than was expected. And if Venom 3 makes the exact same amount as Venoms 1 and 2, I don't know. I'll buy both you guys a drink. How about that?
Just buy us DVD copies of Venom 1 and 2 so we can remember what they're about. That'd be a good start. Let's see what else we've got here on the news front. Actually, some news from our colleagues over at the National Association of Theater Owners. They have a new chief communications officer, a former journalist from the trade world, Andrew Stewart. Chad, this was announced earlier this week. What can you tell us about the new hire?
Andrew most recently served as vice president at 42 West. Our friends over there, various communication roles with Participant and IMAX.
He is kind of across the spectrum of distribution, previous work with Variety, so he kind of understands that media landscape, and obviously now he's doing comms for the trade show representing exhibition. I think definitely interested to see what his role looks like, what actions get taken, because Daniel, as we know, messaging and comms is really a key part of NATO CEO Michael O'Leary's initial plan.
Yeah, I think Andrew's a familiar figure here in the exhibition side of the world, the distribution side of the world. Of course, NATO does a lot of comms work with politicians and the government side of things. So it'll be interesting to see how that role evolves in the coming months. But I'm excited to welcome him back into the exhibition part of the business. I'm sure we'll be able to see him in person at CinemaCon next year. Coming up a little bit closer here to a theater near you, we've got re-release news of another overperformer on the horror genre from earlier in the year. Neon's Longlegs is coming back to theaters. But Chad, I really like this initiative from Neon. Director Oz Perkins has a new movie coming out from Neon next year. They're integrating that at the post credits. What's going on here between The Monkey, his new movie, and this re-release of Longlegs?
Yeah, they're both being released by Neon. The new film is an adaptation of the Stephen King short stories.
I'm so curious to see how he does this, because the short story, it's about a killer monkey doll with the clapping symbols.
The little clapping symbol. Yeah,
I like this. I think this is such a smart idea to release that Q&A and the sneak peek along with re-releasing Longlegs, because I mean, like a lot of people, you know, we intend to go to the theater and catch up with things, and you know, even us who love going to the movie theaters, you know, we don't always get there in time. There are life events, whatever. I only caught The First Omen on streaming, and if they put The First Omen back in theaters, I'd be pumped to see it now. Like, give people a little, you know, put these things out a couple times a year to give us slackers and layabouts and procrastinators an opportunity to catch up. Tuesday at 7 p.m. Like, just as long as it's not a 10 o'clock screening.
That's a wonderful screening time. Tuesday at 7. I'll do you one better. Wednesday, 11:30 a.m. Wonderful. Just great time. You get out early enough to get lunch.
If it allows you to do a long lunch, then yeah.
Yeah. I remember in film school, there was like a screening module Mondays at 10 a.m. where they'd always program like the 3-hour-long Bulgarian movies about butchers. And that's like guaranteed fall asleep. Guaranteed. Like 20 minutes in.
I have a lot of memories of 10 a.m. Tribeca screenings at the Tribeca screening room.
Oh, just out. Just knocked out on that seat. There's no way you can survive that. All right. So we've got a re-release. We've already shared our ideal screening times. Now let's go over to release date updates, because we've got a trio here, starting with a Universal title.
So it was originally titled With Love. It's been retitled Love Hurts. Sounds like it's a little more on point. It's an action movie.
Is this a horror movie?
No, this is an action movie with Ke Huy Quan and Ariana DeBose.
Okay.
From David Leitch's 87 North.
Oh, you love
man, I love those guys. Yeah, I'll do that. Kicking and punching. Okay, I'm in on that. That's good. I always like the February action releases. Like February and August, like unheralded release dates for action movies. You sometimes got some gems in the rough there. From Sony, we've got a movie coming in late April. This is a video game adaptation, Chad?
It is. It's a video game titled Until Dawn. That's what the film is titled as well. This was back in 2015. Rami Malek and Hayden Panettiere did the voices in that game. It was a scary, spooky game. I haven't played it, but I've heard a lot of people saying I have no idea how they're going to adapt this for screen.
I feel like I don't want to do the facile, easy thing of like, oh, it sounds like Five Nights at Freddy's because it's an unadaptable, quote unquote, unadaptable video game. But I think it's worth pointing out that we three maybe are not on the cutting edge of what is popular video game wise among Gen Z. So maybe our lack of knowledge about ask your Gen Z employees about this one and see whether their ears perk up, because
we'll have to wait for the Words with Friends movie, Rebecca. That's or like the
Candy
Boggle
Crush
online. Yeah, that's just it's not much.
Yahtzee's gonna hit with the elder millennial audience.
And finally, we've got a release date update from A24. You've got The Brutalist coming out, I think, limited on Christmas, and that pushes another awards contender from A24, and that pushes on December 20th, Baby Girl, and this is with Nicole Kidman, who seems to be going through a number of young leading men, co-star romantic interests in her career right now. Who does she get with this time?
Harris Dickinson.
Okay. And that's not Zac Efron.
From Beach Rats. I like Beach Rats.
Yeah,
okay.
Great
really
movie.
Because Zac Efron is in the Netflix one.
Correct. He is. And I couldn't tell you what that one's called.
Yeah, well, no one can. No, Zac Efron can't tell you what that one's called.
This is Beach Rats and Triangle of Sadness.
Triangle of Sadness. That's what. Yeah.
Triangle of Sadness was great. All right, it's going to be interesting. I think the end of year A24 awards contender can always pack a punch. I was thinking Zac Efron also because he was in last year's release around Christmas, Iron Claw, which was. I mean, listen, I thought he deserved the Academy Award there. He was fantastic.
He was great
in that movie.
I love that movie.
It was so good. I got all teary-eyed at the end. But A24 will sneak one of those interesting award contenders in at the end of the year. Maybe this one's it for Nicole Kidman and Harris Dickinson. Now we are taking it over to Brandon Purdy from Angel Studios, fresh off of the studio presentation from Angel Studios over at ShowEast in Miami. He'll be joining us to go over the entire slate that Angel Studios is bringing to a theater near you in November, December, and beyond. That is coming up right after this message from our sponsor, Angel Studios.
Angel Studios is home to record-shattering cinema that amplifies light. A distribution studio with impactful top-grossing films for all ages, Angel is the industry leader in crowdfunding films and makes waves with strategically utilized theatrical marketing budgets made possible by their patent-pending pay-it-forward technology. Angel Guild audience members greenlight each production, building in box office success. Fans worldwide enjoy Angel's award-winning, viewer-supported, meaningful storytelling designed to inspire, uplift, and unite.
And we are back here on the Box Office Podcast in this special ShowEast 2024 edition with Brandon Purdy, the EVP, Global Head of Theatrical Distribution over at Angel Studios. Brandon, we had you at CinemaCon. We are happy to have you back here for ShowEast, the fall, basically, event that we all get together, talk about everything that's coming on from here and through the first and second quarters of next year. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
An exciting year for Angel so far. There's been a number of releases that have already hit our screens, but what I want to start with here, Brandon, are the two movies that exhibitors and moviegoers have on their schedule. Let's start with this historical, I don't know if thriller is the right way to put it. It's an exciting story based on a true story here. Bonhoeffer coming out on November 22nd in time for Thanksgiving. Let's start with that title. What can you tell us about that movie, Brandon? What can exhibitors and audiences expect from this film?
Yeah, it's an exciting historical thriller. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was an amazing man. He was a pastor and a pacifist, but, he saw what was happening in his country, in Germany, during World War II, and he could see the kind of lead up to what was happening with the Holocaust. And, he had to ask some difficult questions of himself, what is a person that's a pacifist in this space? What do? Do you remain silent? Do you fight back? Do you, and so it explores kind of this amongst a group of pastors in that time and in that space kind of that were plotting to assassinate Hitler. And so it's kind of this torn between these two different worlds, and what do you do when, when literally the world is on fire. And there's a line in the movie where Dietrich Bonhoeffer says, my country was invaded from within. And it's just an exciting, thrilling film about a super important person that I think is timely in the fact that it was not easy for him to stand up and kind of speak up. And he did with a lot of volume and a lot of strength. Yeah, it's a beautiful film. Todd Skolbernicki, the director, has created a beautiful film. Todd is the producer of Elf, and he wrote Sully. And he's just created a beautiful film. Visually, story-wise, we're super excited about this one. We think it's going to play really well in that window.
It's really well situated in what we are expecting to be the best Thanksgiving at the box office in a long time. And you guys are coming in with a unique offer here, as you usually do. You've got a lot of escapist films. You've got, Gladiator 2 set, back in a different empire. Wicked set in a different, let's say, imaginary world. But this is a more grounded film. This sort of movie that really is a lot more introspective and asks something of the audience, right? As you communicate and sort of relate to what's going on the screen.
Yeah, we think it's a good offering for that window. We think that this is a perfect time for the film too, just weeks after the election and kind of all the conversations that will be swirling and the dialogue that will be happening in our country. So we're really excited. It's pre-selling really well right now.
Oh, that's always good to hear here. That's fantastic. Yeah, we've got that coming out around Thanksgiving, November 22nd, as I mentioned. And then for the folks that are at ShowEast and obviously are exhibitor subscribers at home, they've already seen the one sheet for Homestead on the cover of Box Office magazine. This movie, a little bit more action-packed, coming out right in time for that Christmas corridor, December 20th. This seems to be more of a genre play than I'm used to seeing from you guys over at Angel. What can you tell us about Homestead?
Yeah, Homestead's an exciting film. And I want to be careful that I don't give away too much on this one. But it is basically, an atomic bomb is set off in LA. And, there's a prepper in the Rocky Mountains that has prepared for such a thing. And you kind of see the world start to dissolve into chaos, and you see families kind of rushing to get to the homestead. Stars Neil McDonough, who's been in other films of ours and huge films commercially. Now they're on the homestead and they're working to figure out, is this a fortress or is this an ark? Are we going to help people and accept people in, or are we going to keep them out? And so it's kind of this idea, everyone's going to want in. It's well prepared. They have food, they have security. And now kind of people are amassing at the gate, and they have to kind of go through these difficult challenges internally, but also externally as the world's in chaos. Yeah, it's an exciting film. I just was able last week to screen the very final version of the film, and I think it's going to do very well at that time. It's also a PG-13 that families can all watch together and enjoy and not have to worry about what's going to come up on the screen at that time when you want to go to movies and be with your family and just enjoy a solid movie. And so, yeah, this is definitely one that I'm excited to have come out. And it's based on a book entitled Black Autumn that is a bestseller, and it has a strong following. So we feel like it's a really good offering in the window for Christmas.
A built-in fan base always helps these type of projects. I remember seeing footage of Homestead for the first time at CinemaCon at the Coliseum. It looked like a bit of a throwback to some of these 70s and 80s action movies that were accessible to all audiences. The movies that I grew up watching, right? They weren't necessarily action movies, but they had a lot of action packed in them that, still as a kid, you can still sit down and watch. So it's really something that I haven't seen that much on the schedule. So I'm really happy that you're bringing that to a wide audience for the Christmas time.
Yeah, it's exciting. Not only does it have the following from the books that it's loosely based on, it also has gone through the full entire Angel process, meaning that it came to us as a proof of concept, and then the Angel Guild voted for it to be made, and then it got funded, and then it went and shot, and then the audience, they're so invested. It's been years in developing this with a fan base and building an audience. And so, what a better time to go to the theater and celebrate kind of this theatrical victory of the starting of this story, which it has a lot more story that follows the film, and it will continue on. But at Christmas time, it's a good time to kind of launch this new series of films and content in this universe. So yeah, we're super excited about that. I think of all of our content that we've put out, I can't think of a title that has more excitement amongst our audience than this one, and the traction that it's grabbed early.
And I love the diversity that you guys have on the slate that you're bringing here at the end of the year. If we remember earlier in the year, in the Easter time, you have some religious dramas, some more faith-based films, but you're really expanding beyond that niche by bringing in a historical thriller in Thanksgiving, and by bringing in, let's say, an action-packed movie for Christmas time. It might seem counterintuitive if you think that Angel just does one type of movie. You're proving right now to exhibitors and moviegoers you're interested in making very different kinds of movies for a wide audience.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to consider that when the audience gets kind of a hand in deciding what movies get made, your slate just is kind of, it's diverse. It's a lot of different content, and some of this content that we'll talk about that's coming out in 2025, I mean, it just continues as the guild gets broader and more people come into it. The movies that are passing the guild and the content that's coming out, I mean, it just gets broader and broader. So it's really exciting.
Let's talk about that 2025 slate, because you previewed some of it at CinemaCon. You announced some titles. I've seen some release dates pop up on ComScore, some maybe coming in sooner. I think one in January coming up, if I'm not mistaken. What can you share at this point on that Angel Studios 2025 slate?
Yeah, so we have a film that came into the guild and scored very high, and it will be taking it out on January 24th. It's called Brave the Dark, and it is a beautiful film that stars Jared Harris. Jared Harris is a teacher that notices a struggling student. It's a student that's had a really dark and sad past, and Jared's character, Stan Dean, starts to invest into this student. And this is all a true story. It all happened. The Nate Dean, the is the student in the movie. He helped with the production. He's here in office right now at Angel, and he is, this is his story. This is kind of what he walked through. So it's a student teacher mentor type of movie, but the stuff that Nate went through in his life is gut wrenchingly hard. He was in the foster system, and he was in different spaces, and finally he found this teacher that noticed and invested in him. So that one, honestly, that's my personal one of my favorites that's come through Angel. That's my kind of movie, and I think it's going to do well in January.
And we've got that date already locked up to start the year. It's great to have new releases in January that can come in and find audiences, something we've really been missing in recent years. How about the rest of 25? Maybe you don't have dates set up yet, but what's 25 looking like in terms of your productions?
Yeah, we have another film that the Angel Guild selected. It's called Rule Breakers. And it is a film about a group of young women who are trying to find opportunity in a world that is not welcoming to them being involved at a certain level. And they find this path through robotics where they enter an international competition, and it's kind of against all odds. They kind of rise up against all the obstacles, and they head out and they end up being able to compete in this competition. It's a beautiful film, and it's gonna open in March. We're looking at March 11th right now.
Nice. So 2 titles to open up Q1 of 2025. I know the rest is a little bit in flux.
Yeah, I have one more date that is firm. It's called Last Rodeo. It also stars Neil McDonough. It's about a man who has retired from rodeoing. His family receives hard news about his grandson and about a brain tumor, and they don't know how they're going to pay for it and how all the details are going to shake out. And there opens up a kind of all champions opportunity to come and rejoin the rodeo. And he's well past retirement, but he goes back and decides that he's going to do this one last rodeo to see if he can't win out and financially be able to help his family overcome this really difficult moment. It is a beautiful film. It's probably one of, internally one of Angel's like employee scores as far as people loving the movie. So we're excited about that one. We love Neil McDonough. He's worked with us on multiple pictures, and I would expect that you'll see multiple films in the future with Angel and Neil. We have a title that'll be coming out, and we're still actually working with the title of this film. So it's kind of early to talk about it, but the working title is Truth and Conviction. And it is about three young men in Nazi Germany that when they were teenagers, they went up against Hitler. They started distributing leaflets. The lead character that the movie's based on, his name is Helmut Hubner. And you see him, start to disseminate these little leaflets that he got a typewriter, and he's putting he has access to a radio. So he's hearing broadcasts from outside of Germany. So he's able to cut through the propaganda, and he starts against going out and just disseminating all of this information. And not only does he put it out broadly, he's going to the Nazi boards where they post bulletins of propaganda, and he is posting it on those. And it's kind of him and his friends. It's a thriller. There are these young kids who probably youth is driving their boldness, but they know something's not right and they're doing something about it. And so, yeah, it's a thrilling, exciting historical film. I think it's unique to see a film where, it's young people in this context during World War II, but it's the young folks that are, they're doing something about it. They're kind of going against the Gestapo. And anyways, it's a really exciting film. It's well produced and it's beautiful. That one's just going into production, but we're looking at somewhere in the back half of the year on that movie. And then we have another one that's in the works that we're excited about, and it's called The Fellowship. It's kind of Tolkien and Lewis kind of exploring these authors that created these huge universes between, Narnia and Lord of the Rings, and their friendship throughout life and how they became friends and what they went through and how these stories kind of became what they became. And that's a really exciting picture that we have coming. Next year, we're looking at 8 wide releases. Obviously, we would, if more show up at our door, we're always open to them. But our target is 8 wide releases. And so it's looking exciting. We're going to have a good first half of the year, which is well slated out. That Last Rodeo movie is going to come out on Memorial Day. So we're going to have a January, we're going to have March, and we're going to have Memorial Day, and then we'll have something in between Memorial Day and March 11th. And we can't announce that one right now. And then we'll go into the second half of the year with some really exciting titles.
I come from a big rodeo family in Mexico. You know how many times I've seen 8 Seconds in my life? That VHS copy of 8 Seconds is part of my childhood. So I cannot wait for a new rodeo movie to come in and just widen the scope of the holiday movie that we all crowd around in back home when I'm back in Mexico.
Great. Yeah, I think this film, Last Rodeo, is really going to bring back moviegoers in some rural towns. It's that kind of movie, and it's beautiful. I think it's going to perform really well in the rural markets. And I think Memorial Day is a perfect date to drop that on.
Absolutely. We could have used it this Memorial Day. I'm just saying, just putting it out there. Let's start looking beyond the slates, because one thing that you keep on bringing up in this conversation, Brandon, is the Angel Guild. Now, to our listeners that might not be familiar to the Angel Guild, it's something unique to your offering as a not only studio, but also platform. You're very audience driven, and there are so many advantages that come through that. So how can you explain the Angel Guild concept to our listeners back home?
Yeah, so the Angel Guild, right now, it's a group of 375,000 people from countries all around the world that vote on content. So either there's proof of concept or it's the full film, and they have access to this content that's coming through. And it's lots of content that's in the Guild, and they can go watch it and vote on it. And as they vote, and depending on where the score is, that's how we decide what we're going to take theatrically and what's going to go to other platforms and what we're going to pick up and release. And so it's really unique. And it has grown since our early days of theatrical releasing. And it's really a force for kind of changing the way that films get greenlit and the way kind of shattering the gatekeeper model of just, a handful of people choosing what content the world ought to want. It's kind of like this really fun thing to see happen. Also, that group is made up of people who've invested in projects, people who have invested in P&A over the time. We have a really strong way where people can help fund shows and help fund our marketing efforts. So yeah, it's a really dynamic group. And as it grows, the content that's coming through there and that's being released is really starting to broaden. So when you see Brave the Dark, when you get to watch that movie and then you contrast that against, some of our earlier titles, you can see that it's broadening, but the mission is the same. Stories that amplify light, putting stuff out there in the world that's going to bring light and goodness. But that can mean a lot of different things because faith, Brave the Dark is not a faith-based film. It is a beautiful story of redemption and of human strength and the power of what one person can do if they'll invest in another person and lift them up. So yeah, the Guild is the way that we choose what films we're going to put out in theaters. And so when you get to this many people voting on content, it's exciting to kind of see the volume of content that's coming through, the diversity of the content that's coming through, and then what's passing and what we're able to put out.
And the audience buys into it. That's what I love. So many times we talk about how do you engage with an audience? How do you market a film? The audience is literally invested in this, creating a pre-sales pipeline from production to distribution.
Yeah, when you have a group of people, right, that you're starting to build a community of people when there's just a 3-minute or 5-minute proof of concept, like Homestead, right? There's a proof of concept in there, and then it grows into people are starting to support it and they want to get behind it, and then they put money behind it and they're investing in this project, and then it grows to where it becomes a series and now a film, and those people are deeply invested in this project. And so we've said this before in other interviews, but we're not going to opening weekend in theaters to figure out if we have an audience. We're going with a well-curated and built community that's going to celebrate this moment that they've been a part of since its proof of concept, all the way through to it being on the screen. And then in theaters, these are the people that, anybody can pay it forward, but this group of people that comes to the theater, they're paying it forward for other people to see the movie when they're in the theater, and just continuing to build community and to bring people into the Guild. That cycle is really what is driving in our pre-sales and the ability to be able to pre-sell. We're put tickets on sale early. The theaters have been so supportive of us in doing this and being able to partner with the theaters, the NATO theaters and the ICA that have done so much for our films. But they're now just partners with us, and they're putting tickets on sale early, and they're putting the movies in their theaters, and we're able to pre-sell and kind of find that audience and find how to drive them to the weekend. And it's exciting to think that in the future, as the Guild grows, what opportunities will be available to our opening weekend and how the Guild could have potentially affect the opening as it continues to grow.
No, it's a great evolution, and it's great to see the growth of Angel Studios. Really, over the very recent years, it's been a great rise, and I think a very welcome inclusion into our film exhibition community. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us here on the Box Office Podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. We sure appreciate the work you guys do.
And that was Brandon Purdy from Angel Studios joining us here on the Box Office Podcast. Earlier, you heard from my colleagues, Chad Kennerk and Rebecca Pahle. On behalf of them and myself, Daniel Loria, thank you so much for listening, and we will be back for a special Halloween-themed episode of the Box Office Podcast next week. I feel every episode we do with Rebecca Pahle is a Halloween-themed episode, though.
As it should be.
As it should be, yeah. Chad's going to bring up some Vincent Price trivia. You didn't know that. Now you do. Now you have to bring it up. And, we'll be talking about, movies that make money and movies that don't. It'll be fine. That's coming up next week. Thanks for joining us. This show is produced by the Box Office Company in collaboration with Record Edit Podcast. We'll see you again next week.